Alright, now that we're comfortable with if statements and tests, let's go ahead and move on to loops and switches. First things first, let's go ahead and clear the screen again, and then go back and start editing our script again. First, let's just make a loop that loops from 0 to 4. And inside this loop, we'll make a new file for each of these numbers. The for loop syntax is pretty similar to for loops in other languages with a few changes. So let's go ahead and write this. As usual, it starts with for, F-O-R. And then, instead of a single set of parentheses, it actually uses a double set. So we'll do open, open, and then we say I equals 0, I less than 5, I plus plus, and then end with 2 close parentheses. Next, in the same way if has a then, for has a do. So we write do, and then we finish it off with a done. And then our body is between these two keywords. So to create a new file, we can just use touch like usual, and this time we can use string interpolation to dump the number that we're currently on into the file name. And then next, let's go ahead and print out a message telling the user that these files have been created. Alright, to test this out, let's go back to the command line and run our script. Alright, and we see our message printed, and let's go ahead and do an ls, and we see all 5 of our new files created. Now, what if later we wanted to do work on each of these new files we created? Instead of having to know their names up front, we could just know what they start with. In this case, they start with new file. Let's go ahead and write a loop that loops through just these files in our directory. So first, we'll go back into our script. And this time, we'll write a slightly different kind of for loop. If we go to the bottom, we'll type out for, just like usual. And this time, we can say for something called a new file, in, and then we can give it an expression, and this loop will loop through all of the results of that expression. So we wrap our command in a $sign and parentheses, and then inside of here, we can do any shell command we would normally do, and it'll turn it into a set of results. So a pretty handy command for looking at a list of files is the ls command. So here we can just do ls, and then new file, because we know all the files start with that, and then we can just end it with this splat. So this, of course, means list all the files that start with new underscore file underscore, and then wrapping it in the $sign parentheses means turn this into a set of results that I can loop through. Next, we'll go ahead and say do and done, like before, and then we can just echo each of these files. Once again, let's go back to the command line and try this out. Alright, and we do see our old for loop running, but since we're using touch, we're just retouching each of these files, not making new ones. And then our second loop does successfully just list all of the new files we just created. Alright, for our last loop, we're going to go ahead and switch to a while loop. And in this while loop, we're going to loop through all of the flags that have been passed into our script. When you're writing a script, you can really just think of it as some new command you're making, like an ls or a makedir. You're just going to make a new command that can take in arguments and does some function for you. In order to figure out which flags have been passed into your script, Bash provides you with a few conveniences. Let's go ahead and go back into our script, and then we'll go back to the end of the file. Let's just get some space down here. And this time we'll combine a while loop and a switch case. We'll use the while loop to loop through all of the arguments passed in, and a switch case to decide what to do when we see each one. So we'll start this off by typing while, and then we'll use a command called getOps. And this will get all the options passed in. Now, to define which flags we actually want to look for, we pass a string to this command. Inside of the string, we define each of the flags. So we can say A and B, and this means we are looking for A and B to be passed in. Any other options can be ignored. And if we want some argument to accompany these flags, we can follow the letter up with a colon. So this means that we're looking for an A flag, and if it exists, we'll do something, but we don't care about arguments. And then we're looking for B, and if B is passed in, it should have an argument with it. So we'll finish this up by closing the quotes. And then we'll finish up this line by giving a name to the variable that represents the argument at each turn of this loop. We'll just call this opt. Then, like for loops, we say do and done. And then, inside of this while loop, we'll use a case statement to decide what we're going to do for A and what we're going to do for B. So we start these with case, And then we say which variable we're going to switch on. So in this case, we're switching on opt. And then we end this line with an in, and then we end case statements with case written backwards. Now we can say what we're going to do for each flag. To define what we're looking for, we can say it and then follow it up with a right parenthesis. So in this case, we'll say A, right paren, and when we find A, we will echo and just say the A flag was used. Then you end one of these case lines with 2 semicolons. Next, we'll do the B case. So when B is found, we say B parenthesis, and then we'll echo that the B flag was used, and we'll say which argument was passed in with it. When we've found a flag that has a special argument passed in with it, this argument lives inside of a variable called optarg. So here we can say $, open bracket, close bracket, and inside of that we can just say optarg. So optarg, and then we finish the quote and give 2 semicolons again. Of course, in your own scripts, you would do more complicated stuff here. You might set some flags or set up some internal state, but this is good for now. Let's go ahead and save this and go back to the command line. So one more time, let's go ahead and run our script. And as you can see, nothing new is printed out, and that makes sense because we didn't pass any flags in. So this time, let's pass in the A flag. And as we expect, we see a line printed out saying that the A flag was used. And then one more time, let's go ahead and pass in B, and just give it the string hi. And as we expected, both flags were caught, and the second line has hi appended to the end.